And hello, welcome to the Social Justice Forum. I am your host, Daren. Jaime, we thank you for joining us. If you're asking the question, what is this show all about? We bring you a forum discussing and providing deeper understandings of the issues and inequities that so many communities face. From systemic inequalities to pressing social problems, our guests provide multiple perspectives and insights, helping us better understand and address these challenges. We invite you to stay connected to us. The Social Justice Forum starts now. And welcome back. As cities across the country face growing deficits, putting jobs and services at risk, Airbnb has released a report analyzing the economic impact of tourism across the United States and its cities. Now, the findings of the report detail that travel on Airbnb generates more than $90 billion in economic activity across the country in 2025 alone. Now, with New York Airbnbs alone generating approximately over $3.7 billion last year. However, New York City legislation has passed short-term rental regulations known as Local Law 18, leading to a loss of $1 billion in revenue with a significant increase in housing vacancies. Joining me now to provide further insight on these findings are Medicare benefits specialist consultant Mariana Gonzalez and Director of Policy Strategy at Airbnb North America, Nathan Rotman. And thank you both for joining us. Thank you. And so, for somebody who may not be so familiar with the legislation, let's put it in layman's terms and how this really has an effect on so many people.
Thanks, Daren. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for the invitation today. Local Law 18 passed back in 2021, and basically what it does is asks hosts to get registered with the city of New York. That's completely fine. The problem with what Local Law 18 did that went many steps further than any other city in North America is that it also said that a host may not leave their home when they're hosting a guest, and that the guest that an individual host, operating in the home can't host more than 2 people at a time. So when I have family visiting from Spain, a family of 4 people can't actually find an Airbnb to stay in. They have to stay in a hotel room or 2 when they have 2 kids with them as well. So the law went much, much further than any other law we've seen anywhere else in the United States, anywhere else in Canada. And so, this is a change we're hoping to fix over the next little while, because it's really impacted regular people's ability to share their home and make some extra income. When you think about the Bronx, you think about the Yankees, you think about people coming in for baseball games and for other sports and events. And so we brought guests and travelers to parts of the city where there aren't as many hotels. It's a huge opportunity that's been lost for regular people who used to host during major sporting events and things like that as well. So that's the basics there to start us off.
Yeah. Mariana, I want to ask about the hotel economy because, this regulation has positively impacted the hotel economy in 2025. But when we talk about tourism, that's another conversation.
Tourism, well, as you said, my name is Mariana Gonzalez. I am in the Bronx. I am surrounded by hospitals. I'm on East Chester Road, Pelham Gardens section of the Bronx. And what I mainly host is medical students. I'm nearby the hospitals, so I often get medical students, traveling nurses, and they look for accommodations nearby where they are working. And of course, when then their time off, they go and visit. I have students from Egypt, from Italy, and they come and they want to know where to go. And of course, I have a little booklet with my listing, and it shows them around. And they often, I know they're consumers in the area, and they definitely are a compliment to the local businesses. But when that compares to the hotel industry, I believe is very unfair that everybody is left without a choice and just having to go to a hotel in the city and forget about the other areas of the Bronx of New York that are also valuable and touristic as well.
Yeah, can't forget about the Bronx. You got to say the Bronx. But tell me this here. When we talk about those persons that are coming, you look at this year compared to years past, How does it work out for you? How do you see it?
It's been very tough. I'll get emotional, so I'll try. It's been very tough because um, Airbnb became the backbone of this home, or my backbone after my divorce. And I've been a host for over 8 years. And when this law came through, it was extremely hard to navigate, and I was denied registration. So I am very limited if a booking conflicts with another where I don't have 30 days in between those bookings, and I have 2 weeks that I can accommodate somebody there. I don't have that option. It has to stay vacant until a block of 30 full days becomes available. So I am at a total loss. It has impacted my finances in a way that it goes beyond words. And it is extremely sad for someone like me that's just someone that was able to purchase their home. Uh, as I'm a single mother since 2012, and it's been very tough for me to be able to sustain this home without that income.
Yeah.
It's
And,
vicious.
and Nathan, when you hear Mariana's story, there's so many other stories that are just similar to Mariana's for people who have really had to endure this. So, what, for you, from your perspective, have you been able to tell people about joining in on the fight and creating some further awareness?
Yeah, thanks, Daren, and thanks, Mariana, for sharing your story. It's so important. When this law passed, what the city council said, and what some of the advocates who were in favor of further regulation of short-term rentals said was this was going to make New York City more affordable. This was going to make it cheaper to find a rental apartment in New York City. What it has done instead is hurt regular people who depended on that extra income to make ends meet. And so it's folks like Mariana, it's so many hosts that we've seen in all 5 boroughs who told us these stories that they want to see the law opened up a little bit. We're not suggesting at all that people should come in and invest in multiple properties and rent out apartments that could be full-time homes for people. But what we are suggesting, and there's a law that's been introduced by Councilmember Lewis, that would allow regular people to rent out their home when they go away for up to 4 people. So opening up the law a little bit, making this more this very expensive city slightly more affordable by letting people leverage a home that they spent so much time and so much effort to buy in the first place, to be able to make some extra income using that property. In places like the Bronx, Daren, we've seen listings drop from like around 1,000 before the law came into effect to around 70. Very few people are eligible to get licensed, and the regulation, requires like a 10-page application form. It's very complicated for regular people, and we're working closely with the city council. We're very hopeful that we'll be able to see an amendment this year.
Yeah, there are some punitive regulations that really come into effect here too when you talk about this here, and many may not be so familiar. So on the punitive side, if somebody is found, guilty of, what are we talking about by way of punitive regulations?
Well, certainly, I mean, it's hard to get registered in the first place. They won't be able to operate. But then there are a series of fines that a host could face. I know that the Office of Special Enforcement, the regulation body that oversees this industry, has been sending out warning letters for people, to make sure that they're following the law appropriately. The fines can go fairly high for folks now.
Yeah. Mariana, as you look towards the future, how do you stick your head in the sand and keep it moving forward?
I am advocating, providing like awareness, spreading information on what this is about, because a lot of people don't understand what is really going on. They may think this is pro Airbnb when I'm just a homeowner that's trying to keep her home. And it has nothing to me. I mean, I love Airbnb, but it really is. I'm just a single person that's trying to make ends meet. This is not about a whole industry. It's just that I purchased a home and I have available space that can help me make ends meet, pay my taxes, and do everything moving forward. And it's not my home is not a stock for the city. It's my home. The restrictions, I went through the registration process. It was frustrating. It got denied. Although there's nothing illegal about the spaces in this home, and I'm just praying and keeping my faith that the city is going to open the dialogue and understand that I'm not a home, one and two family homeowners are not people that are trying to become millionaires on or make money out of of renting their space. It's just a need. It's a need like anybody else has a need in the city of New York to maintain a roof over their heads. So I'm just hopeful that the city opens up for a dialogue and that they expand and lessen the restrictions on these accommodations. It's only fair.
Yeah, I mean, if you had the opportunity to talk to city officials, and I know you will have that opportunity, what is it that you would want to convey to them to really to really get your point across? Because I get it. You know, you're saying, listen, I'm just one person, but I'm not out here with multiple properties trying to do something. I'm just an average Joe or average Mariana trying to do what I do, right? And I'm going through it here. But I need you to hear me. So if I'm them, what do you say?
I would say at least take it on a case by case basis. Facilitate the process to begin with. That the OSC picks up the phone for when we have questions about the registration process. I don't mind if you want to inspect my home and I don't know and see what my situation is. It's better than like penalizing everybody over something that we have nothing to do with. Like, as a single homeowner, I'm not responsible for what's going on in the city of New York. And I really encourage anyone that's in power to make any decisions to hear out homeowners that, like me, are only trying to make ends meet. Take it on a case by case basis and be practical and fair when it comes to this issue. Is very serious because they're obligating us to also be part of the housing crisis.
Yeah.
And being homeless.
Yeah. Nathan, how critical is it to really raise your voice here in this matter, because there's an urgency that's out there. Mariana's speaking to it right now, but how do we deal with this urgency and then also possibly the reevaluation of taking a look at this law?
No, it's a great question, and it's people like Mariana that we're really fighting for. Is regular homeowners being allowed to operate again in New York City? If you think about why this law came into effect, it's the hotel industry wanted to make more money at the expense of regular people. They used the housing crisis, one of the most pressing challenges of our time, as an excuse to raise their rates and charge even more money so they can make even more average rates in hotels across the city. We've seen New York City hotel prices skyrocket since this law came into effect to averages well above the national average. And so we've been working with hosts like Mariana, like so many others, to ensure that they know how to reach their city council members, to support Intro 1107, which is a law that's been introduced that we're hopeful we'll see move forward through committee and through the legislative cycle this year, which would allow regular people to operate in their home where they live, would have zero impact on the housing market in New York City, because
sent from the future to save the past, heal the planet and make it last. We find solutions with knowledge slides. Venture forth, echo leaders unite. Echo leaders, echo leaders.
Well, I can share this. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't know if the QR code is going to
Yep, we got it.
visible for everybody. But this explains, is a very short explanation of what the law is right now and what we're trying to obtain, which we failed to mention that one of the restrictions that they put into hosting is besides the 2 guests per stay only, and the renter has to be there, the owner has to be there. We can't even have a lock
Yeah.
in our room, or they can't have a lock in our room, not even the bathroom. That's
Okay.
extremely excessive.
If
Yeah.
you check out homeownersforfinancialempowerment.org, you can find that flyer and much more available on that website.
All righty. Well, Mariana, Nathan, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate having you, and certainly we'll continue to follow this as we move forward.
Thanks, Daren.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you. All righty. We encourage you to stay with us as we're taking a quick break. Guess what? We're going to have more coming up right after this.
Sent from the future to save the past, heal the planet and make it last. We find solutions with knowledge slides. Venture forth, echo leaders unite. Echo leaders, echo leaders.
And we're welcoming you back. Our next guest is an executive coach and a conscious leadership facilitator at the Stanford Graduate Business School. As the founder of a six-figure coaching business, she guides leaders to transcend cultural and societal constraints, harnessing their personal power in both work and life. And here now to highlight how she is successfully empowering women of color seeking career and personal development is the author of Unearthed, The Lies We Carry, The Truths We Bury, Ms. Chanchal Garg. We thank you so much for joining us, Chanchal.
Thanks for having me, Daren.
Listen, I want to ask you this because we know that culture is changing and society is changing, right? So many things that are going on. And to really be able to stay on top and to stay afloat, you've got to have a strong message. And so what's the message that you're giving to women of color, particularly in a time such as this?
Yeah, so I think right now, what I'm experiencing, at least, is that a lot of times in our leadership, these inherited cultural narratives or narratives that we've taken on because of the organizations that we belong to are sort of running the show. And when that happens, we're not leading from our true place. We're not leading from alignment. We're leading from fear. And so my main message is to really start to question, what are these inherited narratives that I have? What are the narratives I have around leadership, around how I'm raising my family, around how I'm modeling for the next generation? And how do we start to question those so that we can get more true to who we are?
Yeah. So you've used your own personal experience as a motivator and really sharing with others how to really be able to overcome, talking a little bit about, some of the things that you've had to encounter in life and using what you've incurred, and you can feel free to share as you wish. How has that served as a motivating message to those that you're now dealing with?
Yeah, well, my book, Unearthed, The Lies We Carry and the Truths They Bury, is about my journey through spiritual and sexual abuse. And while these stories are pretty extreme and not necessarily super common, the underlying themes are very similar and are sort of universal. I would say that, again, these inherited narratives, these things that the ways in which we think we have to show up in silence and sacrifice, sort of betraying ourselves in order to belong, in order to feel relevant. As I coach women of color, especially, my own experience sort of comes through with that. And my message, again, is just to start to question these things, start to doubt your own doubt, recognize that you have wisdom beyond just what other people have told you, beyond just these narratives of how you feel like you need to show up in order to survive, in order to belong, in order to feel, quote unquote, relevant.
Yeah. And as you talk about showing up, the first thing that I think about sometimes is that the way to show up, right, or showing up is sometimes prevented because of one word, boundaries, right? That sometimes boundaries prevent us from showing up, and we haven't put them in place. Talk to me about the word boundaries and what it means for showing up and the work that you do.
Absolutely. So the one thing that I tell folks is the number one boundary to hold is the boundary with yourself. We can set 1,000,001 boundaries, but at the end of the day, you can't outsource them. It's our own responsibility to uphold them. And so being able to do that can be challenging at times, especially, again, when we've sort of been indoctrinated with these narratives of being silent and sacrificing ourselves or betraying ourselves in the name of loyalty. And so being able to hold those boundaries, and also, I just want to name the rage underneath it, oftentimes for women of color, is real. It's justified. And I think when that rage shows up, when that anger shows up, allowing it to inform our boundaries so that we're not backtracking, we're not over-explaining, we're not doing it in those ways, allows us to hold those boundaries more effectively. And when we can hold those boundaries more effectively, we're actually preserving our own energy so that we can show up in effective ways, in ways that can move the needle in the work that we're doing in the world.
Yeah. I want to take a moment and talk about these 5 types of connections, 5 types of communication that you actually offer to help guide people and navigate people when you're talking about this thing called connection and deepening that connection. For somebody that's out there, give us the 5 and, walk us through it.
Yeah, so the 5 levels of communication is actually based on work from Richard Francesco from the Stanford Graduate School of Business. And it goes from sort of sharing observations and facts to moving towards more feelings and values, and even, sort of sharing identity. And what we've seen is that people trust you when you're more human, not when you're more polished. And so a lot of times we find that leaders sort of stop at the earlier stages of these levels and they don't want to go into feelings. There's always sort of that adage of leave your feelings at the door when you come to work. But what we found is that the more leaders can actually be vulnerable appropriately, not oversharing, the more effective they are. I remember that I was working with a leader once who she was running this organization that was really struggling, and she felt this overwhelming need to be constantly positive. And so in our work together, we started looking at what would authenticity as a leader for her look like. And so the next all hands meeting she had, she went in and she shared, I'm really concerned about the direction of our company. I'm really worried about where we are right now. And I also believe that we have the best team that we've ever had. And I know we're going to get through this together. And so what happened from there is her influence just skyrocketed. And people got on board and they were ready to do the work that was needed to turn the company around. And they were fully invested themselves. It's not that they were just being told to do it. They were doing this from their own volition. And so I think that's what the difference is. People just want to work for someone else who is human, who's relatable.
Right. For yourself, as an author now, if you're just joining us now, she's the author of the book Unearthed, The Lies We Carry and the Truths We Bury. What do you want people to walk away with when they experience reading your book?
Yes, thank you. What I've found so far is that people, they read the book and they're kind of like, wow, you've been through a lot. And yes, I have. But that's not the main message. Again, the message here is to say, how do we question these beliefs that we just sort of accept as who we are? How do we question the way that we're showing up in the world so that we can get closer to our potential, to our purpose in terms of what we're trying to do in the world? So in my own story that I share in the book, it's really been about questioning, is this belief really mine? Do I really believe that I need to be silent? Do I really believe that there's something here beyond my understanding and I just need to be quiet and tolerate? And as I started to question those things, as I started to question even traditions, even rituals, even, some of the things that my parents told me, honestly, as I started to do that, I was able to move past. And it's not a matter of not honoring where I came from or not honoring my heritage or my culture. It's a matter of evolving that. And the more I do that, I not only get to change my own leadership, I not only get to feel more aligned in how I'm showing up, but I get to show that to the next generation so they can continue that process for their own children and feel more aligned in who they are and how they're leading in their own work.
Yeah. Chanchal, I think about the word question, right? Because you said you hit on that a lot. We got to ask the questions, but then there's something between question and moving to action. What does it take and bridge that gap of moving from question to action?
Well, I think the question is first, because we've got to build the awareness. And then from there, it's about how am I going to show up in a way that's closer to me? For me, at first, when I realized what was going on in my book, again, my book is about spiritual and sexual abuse. When I first realized what was happening, it took me a couple weeks to just sort of sit with that. And then at that point, it was like, okay, I need to I need to extricate myself from this community. I need to tell the people in my life who matter. So starting to take those steps, honestly, baby steps, a little bit at a time, is helpful. When we try to sort of jump forward before we're ready, that can also cause a little bit of panic. It can also cause a little bit of, it can re-traumatize in ways. And so what I say is that, there's this saying that you have to find your voice. And I don't know that that's necessarily true. I think your voice is always there. Sometimes it's being quiet because it's not necessarily safe for it to come out yet, but it will come out when it's safe. Just start practicing in small spaces.
For people who want to get more information about how to find their voice through your book, right? And I think you say it's always there, but they need a coach in order to bring it out. So if somebody needs that coach, how do they go about reaching you? What do they do?
Yeah, so my website has lots of information on it. It's chanchalgarg.com or theunearthedway.com. So they're more than welcome to go to my website. My book, Unearthed, The Lies We Carry and the Truths They Bury. My information is in there as well. I encourage folks to check out the book.
And, before we go, you talk a little bit about culture, and I think so much, that many people are dealing with is how to break through the culture. And as a woman of color, talking about culture, I got about a minute left, but just give me, unpack that for me. How do women of color really, break through this culture that we're dealing with right now that is really not so affirming when it comes to women of color?
Absolutely. I don't know that it's necessarily about having a goal of breaking through it, because I don't know that I don't know that that's realistic at this point. It's really about showing up as you are. And so I think oftentimes when we look at sort of this larger picture of like, how do I break through this culture, it can be really overwhelming. And so there are going to be rooms that are able to tolerate you, and tolerate your whole self, and there's going to be rooms that are not able to. And so I think it's really about discerning, where can I show up and where can I not, and recognizing that just because I can't show up in my wholeness in this room doesn't make me wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think it's staying with that and just one step at a time, and keep on keeping on. It's tough right now.
It is tough right now. I think that's a word that we've been talking about for quite some time. It's tough right now. All right, Chanchal, we got to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Daren.
All righty. Well, come to the end of our show today. Hope you enjoyed this week's discussion on the Social Justice Forum. If you're rewatching this week's edition, catch the recablecast straight here on BronxNet.org. You want to join the conversation or present your point of view? Visit our social media at BronxNet TV. And join us next week. We'll continue to elevate the discussion and bring further awareness across the globe. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, saying take care. God bless.